I spent 15 years in the highest levels of international finance, but none of it compares to, somebody grabbing me on the street this morning and say, keep going, Brian. Thanks for everything you do. I mean, it's just, it trumps all that by 100x. It's kind of crazy,
Yeah. And what's the price of relevance? I know that whenever this phase of my existence ends, I know I won't sit there going, I wonder if I mattered. I wonder if it mattered. I wonder if I won't have any of those wonders, because I get reminded every single day that the mission I'm on is a mission worth doing. And listen, how rare is that? How sweet is that? How unusual as a human experience is it to know that in your life, you freaking got the validation that, yeah, you know what? It was worth the air that you breathed. So I would say I'm a better human being because I have found myself less interested in being important and far more interested in being relevant.
Well, it shows. And there was some great moments in that EU speech where, you said, let me repeat that. Did you hear what he said? And it was just fantastic. I mean, it really came off as a great TED Talk. Not that Ted would have ever had you.
I don't think I'll be invited back there either.
Probably not. Although you do have that old TED Talk I found as well.
I do.
It is.
They can't erase all of it.
Mine disappeared it was on the TEDx website. It actually disappeared for 2 months, right when all of this was happening in May 2020. And I was like, come on. I was like, I mean, okay, it's one thing, when Dropbox and PayPal and all these other things systematically check you. But I was like, come on, TEDx takes my talk down. And then it popped back up later, and now I think it's gone. But anyways, it was interesting. Your role in the film is interesting in Plandemic 3 because, again, we also see a different David Martin. You're talking about this concept of being human. You're talking about what this great reset might mean, this quasi-communist society, and then this last line where you talk about go out and stand on the earth, and you can feel what it means to be human and be a part of this universe. It was a nice, unexpected part of you to see that makes sense of everything that you do.
Yeah, Mickey told me that I should wait for it, and I didn't know what wait for it was. I knew that I was going to have at least a cameo thing in this film. And then he told me about his editorial decision to put that line in the film. But that was actually one of the rare moments that Mickey and I had to get into that really human space. A lot of people don't understand what motivates me. And a lot of people have not taken the time to sit and ask the question, and Mickey did. And so that soundbite comes from a much longer conversation. And like a lot of things that Mickey does, sometimes I wish he'd just let the camera roll be something people could see, because the longer conversation is really cool too. But the point, I think, is important, because if you ask this underlying question, that what's the motivation, right? What's the motivation for a Dave Martin? What's the motivation for Brian Rose? What's the motivation for Mickey Willis? Which, by the way, I think the Great Awakening film, because Mickey does finally get in front of the camera and finally puts his voice in this film. I think it's brilliant, because now you get the motivation for the why behind Mickey, which is a phenomenal story, and it's wonderful, and it grounds this into the context of why it matters. I think it's absolutely brilliant. And the point is that Mickey just let the camera roll, and we started talking about, okay, the why in David Martin. And I would say to the people who puzzle about motivation, the why for me is actually simple. I knew at a very early age that I perceived the world very differently than the people around me. I grew up in a very conservative religious environment. It was not welcoming of different perspectives. You can imagine how well I went over in that environment. And I had a very early life that involved some fairly unpleasant things around that experience. But at the same time, I started seeing that people who were controlled by ideology or dogma or a belief system that was intransigent. I saw the effects of that at such an early age that I realized that I did not want to be constrained by a set of perspectives that blinded me to the world. And I have a beautiful moment, which was a moment I had in China with a lovely guy who invited me to a monastery in 2010. I'm sorry, in 2007. And during our conversation, he asked me if I would stand barefoot in the snow. Now, I grew up on a farm in Pennsylvania. You know, barefoot in the snow is not what we did when we went out at 4 o'clock in the morning to milk cows. That, you know, I was very much into boots. But I went out in the monastery and stood in the snow. And he just asked if I could learn from the snow. And it was a fun exercise, because what I found was, you know, your first thought is, why the hell am I standing in the snow with bare feet? That doesn't make any sense. And then after your brain gets done telling you that that's a dumb idea, you start feeling the snow. And then you start feeling your effect on the snow. And you start feeling that if you stand there long enough, the snow relents to your body heat. It doesn't go the other way. Your body heat doesn't relent to the snow. Your feet get cold, yeah. But the snow changes its phase. And that's when I had the epiphany standing barefoot in the monastery, in the snow. Was if you actually stand long enough in your essence, whatever your essence is, you actually start feeling that you actually matter to the earth, not just the other way around. And so this wonderful moment of just go stand in the snow turned into a life lesson, which then became a motivation, which is to say, can I get to a place where I'm living my life, I'm comporting my behavior in such a way that I have the ability to learn about my impact on things. And for me, that was a massive shift, not to see the world as happening to me, which I think a lot of people get trapped in. Does this happen to you? Does that happen? Which builds the victim accommodation, validation nonsense that we're living through right now in society. Can you get to the place where you actually see your own effect? And for me, I'll look at that snowy day in the monastery as one of those life-altering perspective shifts, where you move from a world where the world happens to you into a world where you realize it's all interconnected and it's a phase question. How long are you willing to stay and make a difference? How long are you willing to put up with an uncomfortability so that you can make a difference? And so for me, COVID is a long stand in the snow, because that's all it is. It's just a long stand in the snow, because what we're going to do is we are going to change the narrative. We're going to change the trajectory. And this, in many respects, is a war of attrition, because I do not tire of standing up for humanity. That's not a thing I get exhausted with. I don't sit here going, Brian, we've got 15 minutes. Let's get the highlights. We'll sit long. We'll enjoy. And when we ultimately see each other in the UK or over here, wherever, we'll have even a longer conversation. Why? Because there's a humanity that is the thing that we will ultimately see its phase change if we're willing to stand long enough metaphorically in that snow. And that's why I love Mickey's inclusion of that line. Get to the place where you see you're part of a system rather than you are the victim of or the inertial consequence of a system outside your control. Because we do. We have an influence. We do have an effect, and we can actually stand in that and accomplish great things.
So Jim Rickards has just recorded a video that's not available to anyone in the public, and he's going to be talking about how this upcoming recession is going to be fast, it's going to be bloody, it's going to be nasty. But at the same time, he's going to show you how you can position yourself to profit from all of this chaos. Now, we've made this video only available to our viewers. Go to londonreal.tv/Jim. Watch that immediately. I can't say enough good things about Jim Rickards. He understands the global economic system better than any guest I've ever had on London Real. His predictions are almost uncannily true, and you can learn how to profit from his vision, from his expertise, and his understanding of economics. So go to londonreal.tv/Jim or click the link below. It's an excellent, excellent look on what's going to happen in the future and how you can position yourself to profit from that. Jim is one of the best in the business, one of my favorite guests on London Real, and he's very, very good at predicting the future and showing us all to profit from it. So click the link, and I hope you enjoy. Hey, it's Brian Rose, founder of the DeFi Academy. I've told you my 4-week crypto bootcamp is amazing, but don't take my word for it. This is what my students are saying.
The DeFi Academy was an amazing experience for me. It took me totally out of my comfort zone.
In this course, I was challenged, I was held accountable, and pushed to do things that honestly weren't always easy.
It's been phenomenal, and I can't believe we're already up on our 4 weeks. It has flown by.
Going through this DeFi accelerator by far was one of the best courses I've taken.
You do this course, you really get into the nitty-gritty of the activities that will make you comfortable with decentralized finance.
Thank you so much to Brian and everyone at London Real and the DeFi Academy for even putting together an amazing course like this.
Anybody else that wants to do it, please sign up. It is well worth the money.